Seniors. 5 popular seeds that damage joints, and 2 that actually reduce inflammation. Have you ever felt that nagging pain in your knee when getting up from your chair? Or discomfort in your fingers when opening a bottle or holding a cup of coffee? For millions of Americans over 60, these aren't just minor annoyances, they're silent warnings that your joints are in trouble. According to the Arthritis Foundation, more than 58 million people in the U.S. live with some form of arthritis, and that number only grows with age. The problem is, many of us think we're making healthy choices, when in reality, we're eating foods that make joint pain and inflammation even worse. And here's the surprise: some seeds often seen as healthy and featured in modern diets can actually harm your joints. Even worse, many of them are hiding in your morning toast, your lunchtime salad, or that healthy afternoon snack. But the good news, there are also seeds that help reduce inflammation and naturally protect your cartilage. Before we dive in, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from. It's always exciting to see our community reaching across the United States. And don't forget to subscribe to the Age with Strength channel for more simple and powerful health tips. This video is for educational purposes only and does not replace medical consultations or professional nutritional advice. Always talk to your doctor or a healthcare provider before making changes to your diet. As we age, our joints bear the weight of decades of movement. Every step, every heavy lift, every little twist leaves its mark. It's like an old hinge that starts to squeak with use. It still works, but it needs more care to keep from seizing up. After 60-hour collagen production, the protein that keeps cartilage flexible and strong drops significantly. That leaves bones more exposed and increases friction inside the joints. This natural process, called degeneration, already sets the stage for discomfort. But there's another sneakier factor at play: inflammation. In an effort to protect the joints, the body releases inflammatory compounds. At first, this helps. But when inflammation becomes chronic, it slowly eats away at the cartilage, making pain worse and reducing mobility. That's why conditions like arthritis and osteoarthritis become more common with age. Now for the most surprising detail: what you put on your plate can either speed up or slow down this process. Foods high in bad fats, refined oils, and even some seemingly harmless seeds act like fuel for inflammation. And when this combines with the natural wear and tear of aging, the result is frequent pain, stiffness, and in more serious cases loss of independence. But here's the good news: prevention is possible. When you understand which foods worsen inflammation and which ones help fight it, you give your joints a real shot at aging with less pain and more mobility. The first seed that seems healthy, but actually increases inflammation, one of the most popular seeds in recent years, is the sunflower seed. You'll find it in salads, breads, granola, and even as a quick snack because many people see it as a natural and nutritious choice. And yes, sunflower seeds do offer vitamin E and minerals. But there's one important detail that's rarely mentioned: their high omega-6 content. Now, the issue isn't omega-6 itself. Your body does need it in small amounts. The problem is excessive omega-6, especially when it's not balanced by enough omega-3. And that's exactly what's happening with the modern American diet. According to the National Institutes of Health, most people consume up to 20 times more omega-6 than omega-3. This imbalance fuels the production of inflammatory compounds that directly attack your joints. To make matters worse, most sunflower seeds on the market are roasted and salted. Roasting at high temperatures oxidizes the fats, turning them into compounds that promote inflammation. And the added salt brings another problem: fluid retention, which leads to swelling and puts extra pressure on already sensitive joints. In other words, what looks like a healthy snack could quietly be feeding inflammation from the inside out. For those dealing with arthritis or constant pain in their knees and hands, regularly eating sunflower seeds can be like pouring gasoline on an already burning fire. The second harmful seed commonly found in breads and snacks, another seed with a healthy reputation that might actually be a trap for people with joint pain, is sesame. You'll find it in bread, crackers, granola bars, and even in sauces like the popular tahini used in Middle Eastern dishes. Sesame seeds do contain fiber, minerals, and antioxidants, But what many don't realize is that they're also packed with omega-6 fatty acids, the same ones that throw your body's inflammation balance out of whack. In small amounts, within a well-balanced diet, this wouldn't be a big deal. The problem is that the average American diet is already overloaded with omega-6 sources, refined vegetable oils, ultra-processed foods, chips, cookies, and even frozen meals. When sesame is consumed in excess in this scenario, it further reinforces this imbalance. To give you an idea, the ideal ratio would be around 2 parts omega-6 to 1 part omega-3. But today, the average found in American studies shows ratios of 16:1, reaching up to 20:1 in some regions. This means the body is permanently inflamed, creating a fertile ground for arthritis, morning stiffness, and joint pain. And there's an even more important detail. Sesame is often consumed in oil form, found in dressings and ready-made sauces. Sesame oil, although flavorful, concentrates even more of the inflammatory fatty acids. When heated, as happens in frying and sautéing, it produces oxidative compounds that can damage not only the joints, but also the blood vessels. This explains why some people experience worsening pain after consuming seemingly harmless foods. For those already suffering from osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, or with a family history of joint diseases, excess sesame can be a silent villain. That crunchy crust on your bread roll or that store-bought salad dressing may be slowly sabotaging your joint health. What we often hear from patients is something like, "I thought I was taking care of myself, eating whole grain bread with sesame, or using a more natural dressing, and yet my pain got worse." This perception is backed by science. It's not about eliminating sesame forever, but understanding that in excess, it stops being an ally and becomes an enemy to your joints. The third seed, used in processed oils, that accelerates cartilage degeneration. Few people directly associate this seed with joint pain, but it's present in virtually every American kitchen, often in hidden form. We're talking about the cottonseed used to produce cottonseed oil, one of the cheapest and most common vegetable oils in the food industry. Cottonseed oil is found in margarine, frozen French fries, cookies, mayonnaise, and even in some types of processed peanut butter. The problem is that it's highly refined, going through chemical processes that strip away natural nutrients and leave behind an unstable mix of oxidized fats. These fats directly stimulate systemic inflammation, which for someone predisposed to arthritis can mean a rapid worsening of symptoms. Studies conducted by institutions like the Cleveland Clinic have already pointed out that frequent consumption of refined vegetable oils is linked to higher levels of inflammatory markers in the blood. The practical result is simple: more morning stiffness, greater difficulty walking, and an increase in joint swelling. It's as if these oils act like low-quality lubricant instead of helping movement. They gradually wear down the structure. Another concerning factor is that cottonseed oil is especially high in omega-6 fatty acids and low in natural antioxidants. For the body, this is like opening the door to inflammation with no resistance. Over time, this imbalance not only intensifies pain, but also accelerates cartilage degeneration, making joints more fragile and vulnerable to injury. Imagine someone who's 65 years old, dealing with hip pain, and unknowingly consumes processed foods rich in cottonseed oil every day. Every meal fuels silent inflammation. That person might think the problem is just age or natural wear and tear, when in reality, their diet is acting as hidden fuel for the pain. Oil is favored by the ultra-processed food industry. In other words, it's found exactly in the products that often seem most convenient for people trying to save time or money in their daily routine. The solution: avoid processed foods that use this oil as much as possible. Read labels carefully and whenever you can. Switch to higher quality oils like extra virgin olive oil. That simple swap can reduce your daily inflammatory load and offer real relief for your joints over time. The fourth seed, found in granolas and energy bars, the next seed seems to be the darling of modern diets, especially among those looking for a quick breakfast or snack: pumpkin seeds. They show up in granolas, nut mixes, energy bars, and even in roasted and seasoned versions marketed as a healthy snack. Its true pumpkin seeds contain zinc, magnesium, and protein. But here's the catch: when consumed in excess, especially in processed forms, they become yet another risk factor for those dealing with joint inflammation. That's because pumpkin seeds, like the others mentioned, also contain a significant amount of omega-6 fatty acids, and as we've already seen, too much of this fat throws the body out of balance and feeds inflammation. The issue is that many ready-made products like granolas and bars don't just include the seeds. They're loaded with added sugars, corn syrup, refined vegetable oils, and preservatives. So what could be a fairly balanced ingredient ends up part of an inflammatory package that multiplies the risk for your joints. Sugar, in particular, speeds up a process called glycation, which literally stiffens tissues and worsens joint pain. Another factor is how these seeds are prepared. They're often roasted at high temperatures and heavily salted. Roasting degrades healthy fats and creates oxidative compounds, while too much sodium promotes fluid retention, making joints swollen and more painful. That's why many people report feeling stiff fingers or heavy knees after eating seed-based snacks. To illustrate, imagine a senior who starts replacing their afternoon snack with energy bars, believing they're making a healthy choice. In practice, instead of reducing pain, this routine may actually intensify it. Not because pumpkin seeds are inherently harmful, but because their consumption within the context of a modern diet reinforces the inflammatory cycle. This doesn't mean pumpkin seeds need to be completely eliminated. Rather, it means we need to pay close attention to the amount and the way they're prepared. When consumed in moderation raw or lightly toasted at home, they can be fairly neutral. But in their industrialized form, combined with sugars and unhealthy oils, they become just another burden on joints already weakened by time. The fifth seed, often consumed, roasted, and salted, that worsens joint pain. Now we come to one of the most popular seeds in the United States, peanuts. Though technically a legume, they're often treated like a seed or nut, and for that reason, they make this list of foods that require caution, especially for those suffering from joint pain. Peanuts are everywhere in snacks, peanut butter, protein bars, and even desserts. They've earned a reputation for being healthy due to their plant-based protein and antioxidant content. But what many don't know is that, for people over 60, peanuts can be a real inflammatory trigger. First, because of their high omega-6 content, the main culprit behind the body's inflammatory imbalance we've already discussed. In a modern diet, already overloaded with this type of fat, frequent peanut consumption only makes things worse. This overload creates an environment where inflammatory compounds called cytokines attack the joints, worsening symptoms of arthritis, osteoarthritis, and morning stiffness. On top of that, peanuts come with another serious issue: contamination by aflatoxins produced by fungi that grow in humid conditions. American studies have linked aflatoxin exposure to liver problems. But there's also evidence that these toxins increase oxidative stress, one of the main enemies of joint health. The higher the oxidative stress, the greater the cartilage breakdown. Another major concern is how peanuts are typically consumed. Most versions are roasted and heavily salted, or turned into peanut butter loaded with hydrogenated oils and added sugars. That creates a dangerous cocktail: inflammatory fats, excess sodium, and oxidized compounds that speed up joint deterioration. That's why some people report that after eating a good amount of peanuts or processed peanut butter, their fingers feel swollen and sore, like their joints are being squeezed from the inside. And here's a detail that rarely gets mentioned: peanuts are one of the most allergenic seeds out there. Even in people without severe allergies, they can trigger small inflammatory reactions in the gut, which end up affecting other systems in the body, including the joints. This strengthens the link between diet, gut inflammation, and joint pain, something science is increasingly exploring. This doesn't mean no one should eat peanuts, but for those with arthritis, osteoarthritis, or chronic joint pain, it's a food that deserves much more caution than it usually gets. Replacing it with other plant-based protein sources or less inflammatory nuts can make a real difference in daily life. So far, we've talked about the seeds themselves, but there's an even bigger danger hiding inside them: the refined oils. Extracted from these seeds and used by the food industry in virtually every ready-made product you find on supermarket shelves: corn oil, soybean oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil, sunflower oil. All of these are derived from seeds that go through intense industrial refining processes, high heat. chemical solvents, even deodorization to make them more stable and extend their shelf life. The problem is, during that process, natural nutrients are stripped away, leaving behind unstable fats that, when consumed, promote inflammation in the body. According to the National Institutes of Health, NIH, excessive consumption of refined vegetable oils is one of the main factors increasing the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in the American diet. As we've seen, this imbalance is the perfect trigger for chronic inflammation. And when we're talking about arthritis and joint pain, that's devastating because chronic inflammation is exactly what fuels the pain, stiffness, and loss of mobility. To better visualize it, imagine your joint is like a hinge that needs lubrication to work smoothly. Extra virgin olive oil, for example, would be like a high-quality lubricant that keeps movement fluid. Refined seed oils, on the other hand, are like putting sand in that hinge instead of helping. They increase friction and speed up wear and tear. Another critical point is that these oils are everywhere. Even people who avoid frying at home often consume large amounts without realizing eaten store-bought bread, cookies, frozen French fries, processed sauces, margarine, and even in foods marketed as fitness or natural. What should be the exception has become the rule in the modern diet. Research from the Harvard School of Public Health has shown that people with diets richer in refined oils and ultra-processed foods have a higher incidence of chronic inflammatory diseases, including rheumatoid arthritis. This doesn't mean a single food causes the disease, but rather that over time, the accumulation of small, poor choices creates a fertile ground for problems to appear or worsen. And here's the most shocking detail. Many people over 60 believe their pain is just a result of old age. But in reality, a significant part of that suffering comes from an inflammatory diet that's reinforced daily by these invisible oils. Reducing or eliminating refined oils from your routine can lead to a radical improvement in quality of life, bringing relief and mobility back in just a few weeks. After talking so much about seeds that harm, it's time to bring some hope. And good news, among the seeds available in our diet, one of the most powerful for protecting joints and reducing pain is flaxseed. Flaxseed has a unique advantage that sets it apart. It's one of the richest plant-based sources of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a type of omega-3, and, as we've already discussed, joint inflammation is closely linked to an imbalance between omega-6 and omega-3 in the diet. When you consume flaxseed regularly, you help restore that balance, reducing the production of inflammatory compounds that attack cartilage. But the benefits don't stop there. Research conducted by Harvard Medical School shows that eating foods rich in omega-3 can lower inflammatory markers in the blood, such as C-reactive protein, CRP, which is often elevated in arthritis patients. In everyday terms, less inflammation in the blood means less pain and more mobility in your joints, beyond its anti-inflammatory effects. Flaxseed is also extremely rich in soluble fiber, which feeds the good bacteria in your gut. And it's now well known that a healthy gut is key to reducing inflammation throughout the body, including in your joints. When your gut microbiome is balanced, it helps regulate the immune system and prevents it from attacking your own tissues, as happens in rheumatoid arthritis. Another often overlooked benefit is that flaxseed contains lignans plant compounds with antioxidant properties and mild hormonal effects that may help postmenopausal women maintain better bone and joint health. This is especially important because, after age 60, the drop in estrogen contributes to bone and joint fragility. It's important to note that flaxseed needs to be consumed properly to unlock its nutrients. Whole seeds often pass through the digestive system without being absorbed. The ideal way to consume flaxseed is ground fresh, added to yogurt, smoothies, salads, or even sprinkled over soups. This way, your body can better absorb its omega-3 xanthan fiber. For someone struggling with stiff knees, hip pain, or swollen fingers, adding flaxseed to the daily routine can be a simple, affordable, and natural step toward greater comfort. Not a miracle cure, but when used consistently, it can help create a less inflammatory and more joint-friendly environment. If there's one seed that deserves the spotlight when it comes to joint health, it's chia. Small and unassuming, it has gained popularity in recent years. And this time, for good reason. For those dealing with arthritis, osteoarthritis, or chronic pain, chia can be a powerful ally. Just like flaxseed, Chia is an incredibly rich plant, source of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, the type of omega-3 that helps balance inflammation in the body. Research from the National Library of Medicine shows that regular chia consumption can reduce levels of inflammatory markers like IL-6 and C-reactive protein CRP, both of which are associated with arthritis progression. This means its benefits go beyond immediate relief, also offers long-term protection against the worsening of the condition. But the power of chia goes beyond omega-3. These seeds can absorb up to 12 times their own weight in water, forming a gel rich in soluble fiber. This gel helps regulate blood sugar, preventing inflammatory spikes caused by excess glucose. It also promotes satiety, aids digestion, and protects the gut, which, as we've seen, is directly linked to joint health. Another important point is that chia contains antioxidants like quercetin and caffeic acid, which fight free radicals, responsible for premature cell aging, including cartilage cells. This helps reduce oxidative stress, one of the most destructive factors for people suffering from chronic joint pain. Adding chia to your daily routine is simple and affordable. You can sprinkle it over yogurt, smoothies, fruit salads, or even use it to naturally thicken soups and sauces. When soaked in water or milk, it forms a gel that can replace eggs in recipes, great for people with food intolerances. For those living with constant pain, morning stiffness, or difficulty walking long distances, chia can be more than just an ingredient, can become a practical tool for relief and protection. It's not a miracle cure, but it's a way to use nature to support joint health. Knowing which seeds help and which ones harm is just the first step. The real challenge is turning that knowledge into simple and sustainable habits. Beneficial seeds like flaxseed and chia can be easily incorporated into meals, but it's important to remember that quantity and preparation matter. For example, 2 tablespoons of chia or ground flaxseed per day are enough to provide a solid dose of fiber, antioxidants, and omega-3. More than that can overwhelm the gut, especially for those not used to high fiber intake. A practical way to consume flaxseed is to add it ground into yogurt or sprinkle it over oatmeal at breakfast. For chia, soaking it in water or milk for a few minutes turns the seeds into a gel that can be used in light desserts or even in place of eggs in pancake or cake recipes. This way, they're not just nutritious, but also versatile in the kitchen. It's also important to remember to stay hydrated. Both chia and flaxseed absorb a lot of water, so drinking fluids throughout the day is essential to help them regulate digestion and support inflammation control. A good habit is to always drink a glass of water when consuming these seeds. More important than any recipe is consistency. Eating these seeds occasionally won't bring major changes, but including them in your routine daily with balance and intention can make the difference between waking up stiff every morning and getting out of bed with more ease and freedom of movement. With simple, accessible, and natural choices, it's possible to take a real step toward healthier joints, less pain, and more vitality to live every stage of life with independence. Did you know that there are hundreds of natural solutions, proven, safe, and within your reach to relieve pain, regulate blood pressure, improve sleep, digestion, and even support diabetes control in a complementary way? If you're interested in a more natural, intelligent, and effective path to take care of your health, then you need to discover the Natural Healing Guide. This complete ebook brings together the very best of natural medicine, herbs, essential oils, supplements, and home remedies for blood pressure, cholesterol, anxiety, pain, skin, and much more. And the best part, with clear, safe, and practical guidance, even for those who are just getting started. The link is in the first pinned comment of this video. Don't miss it. Now, if there's one key message in this video, it's simple. Not everything that seems healthy actually protects your body. Some seeds, when consumed in excess, can silently inflame your joints, increasing pain and discomfort. But at the same time, nature also gives us powerful tools to reduce inflammation, ease symptoms, and help you maintain your independence for much longer. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these seeds do you eat most often? Have you noticed any difference in your joint pain after changing your diet? Share your experience in the comments. Your story might inspire and help others in our community. Taking care of your joints is taking care of your freedom. It's your chance to keep walking without pain, to enjoy outings with your grandkids, to stay independent in your own home. And remember, every step you take toward a more natural life is also a step toward better health, more energy, and greater independence. See you in the next